Hello, and welcome to part 5 and our final part of Deborah, Prophetess and Judge of Israel. I have enjoyed studying this so much, and I hope you have too. And we're going to have a grand finale here in this last portion. We've just left off in part 4 with Sisera, the enemy armies, captain of the host, this very feared enemy, this very man that is very self-confident and trusted in his horses and trusted in his chariots and trusted in his armies and trusted in himself. But he has been last seen, he has fled on foot, he's abandoned all that he trusted in, and he has taken refuge and actually been lured in by Jael into that tent. One of the class members, when we did this at church a few weeks ago, pointed out that she continued the plan that God had to draw them in, and she did the same thing. And we don't know a whole bunch about Jael except that she was Heber's wife. We know that she was married to a descendant of Moses' in-laws, and so we really don't know if she had a relationship with the Lord, if she had believed that he was the true God, if she had reason to protect or help Israel. The Lord has some remarkable things to say in the song. Deborah says some remarkable things about her in chapter 5 that we'll look at real quickly in a few moments. But we do know that she was used in the Lord's purpose, and that she took advantage. You remember we said that Sisera loved to ravage the land of the young women. We don't know what experiences that Jael had with Sisera in previously. We don't know what led up to that. But we do know that she told him to come in and don't be afraid. And she covered him up, and I'm sure he was very weary from running away on foot and abandoning his chariot. And then he asked for water, and she gave him milk. In chapter 5 it says that she gave him like a yogurt kind of, a curdled kind of milk in a kingly bowl, and she honored him, and he was feeling very safe and secure. He was giving her instructions. Then you stand over there at that door, and if anybody comes and asks if I'm here, you tell them no. He was still feeling confident in himself and his strength, and he certainly didn't see her as a threat. Let's see what Jael does in verse 21. Then Jael, Heber's wife, took a nail of the tent and took a hammer in her hand and went softly unto him and smote the nail into his temples and fastened it into the ground, for he was fast asleep and weary, so he died. I guess he did. Verse 22, and behold, as Barak pursued Sisera, Jael came out to meet him and said unto him, Come, and I will shew thee the man whom thou seekest. And when he came into her tent, behold, Sisera lay dead, and the nail was in his temples. Verse 23 and 24 finishes our chapter. And God subdued on that day Jabin, the king of Canaan, before the children of Israel. They didn't defeat him, but they subdued him. They killed his captain of the host, defeated his army that they sent out, won the victory in that battle, and the hand of the children of Israel prospered and prevailed against Jabin, the king of Canaan, until they had destroyed Jabin, king of Canaan. Now let's look for a few moments at Jael. In verse 5, chapter 5, it talks again about how she killed this enemy captain of the host. And it says that she took in one hand the stake and in the other hand the hammer. When I read that, I was just so excited to see that very principle that we learned in Nehemiah when we first started studying together, where Nehemiah told them to take their tools tools in one hand, like a hammer, and their weapons in the other hand. The only weapon that Jael had was an iron tent stake. And she took it, and she did what she could with what she had in her hand. Isn't it amazing that this enemy captain of the host, who thought that he was going to have victory with his 900 iron chariots, instead was killed by a woman with one iron stake? God can take little and turn it into much, and he can take what looks like much for the enemy and turn it into naught. Praise God. Praise God. He is able. If we will listen and obey and act in his time, he is able. In chapter 5, I hope you'll take time to read there and to read Deborah's song. And one of the things that it said that I wanted to be sure to point out to y'all was in chapter 5, verses 7 and 12, where it says that Deborah said she rose up. And in one of them it says, the villages had ceased until I rose up as a mother. I want to encourage those of you who are listening today. It looks like our society has ceased and failed. It has. Our communities have failed. People who should be supporting family values and God's law has failed. But it's not over, because we, like Deborah, can rise up as a mother. And what does that mean to do that? That means to protect, to provide, to nurture, to teach, and to train, so that just as we began reading with Judges, there won't be a lost generation, that our children will know. They will know the things of God. They will know, they will be taught the ways of God. We will give testimony to our experiences and encourage them to have experiences of their own, so that they can be found faithful in this battle between good and evil, right and wrong, between the enemy and our